Okay, good evening. I'm Vincent Ho, and my boss, the co-ill here. Welcome to our seminar tonight. And I think we have to speak in English at this time. The event is going to run for about an hour and a half. We will have a talk for about an hour and then Q&A period afterward. First of all, I want to find out you're in the right location for the right talk. And this is for managing psychological hazards and advancing mental well-being in the construction industry, a multidimensional approach. So if you're not coming for this, there might be a religious class next door, a yoga class, Pilates next door. So otherwise, we will keep going. So when we start, let me first introduce our sponsors and our organizers. So this event is organized by the Research Center for Design for Safety, and our director is Dr. Co-ill. And we present a souvenir from our research center to our speaker, and Dr. Carol Hon. Mr. John, could you help us to take a photo?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is our co-organizing body from HKICM. You can all come up. Thank you,
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to read out all the supporting organization, but the font size is so small that I can't really see it. So if I mispronounce it, it's too bad. We are being supported by CIC, Hong Kong IE Safety Specialist Committee, HKICN, and ICES, and also SRSO Society for Registered Safety Officer. And there's a little flower here. I cannot tell what it is.
Alumni Association.
Okay. PolyU Alumni Association under Civil and Environmental Engineering. Would the representative please come up and have a group picture with the speaker? Anyone? HKICM and ICES? Any rep from SRSO? Any rep from Hong Kong IE SSC? Just line up. And Nicole? Any other one? Did I miss anybody? Smile, 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, and 3. Yeah, one more, two more. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more.
Stand out instantly. The code will be, okay. Vincent, you can.
Oh.
And the official photographer is 3. 1, 2, 3. Great. Very good.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Andy is our senior member who is just turned 49 sometime a few years ago. Without delay, we probably need to kick it started. Any questions? No. Let me introduce the speaker. Dr. Carol Hon is Associate Professor at School of Architecture and Built Environment, Queensland University of Technology in Australia. Carol is an expert in safety, health, and well-being. And she was one of the 2 academics consulted on the review of the Work Health and Safety Act in Queensland. She's also the first female construction management researcher in Australia to receive the prestigious Australian Research Council Discovery for Early Career Research Award. Yay. And I think not only that, she is a graduate from PolyU. Yeah. So it's a first PolyU graduate, first female to get this award. Perfect. So the talk is about psychological health and well-being. And remember, it's about an hour. If you have any dying questions, please hold it and wait till the end, and then we'll run the Q&A back. Now, before we go on, you may have seen a little thing here. this is being recorded under Zoom just for our own information. So if you don't want to be recorded, just do not turn your face because camera is in the back. Otherwise, it's going to be recorded and we will hold that information for ourselves use only. So let's get it started. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you for the introduction. Thank you everyone for joining this seminar. It's really my great honor to be here to share my research and share with you a topic that's really close to my heart. The topic is managing psychosocial hazards, advancing mental well-being in the construction industry's multidimensional approach. Let me share with you a little bit about where I'm from and my university. So I'm from Queensland, Brisbane. And in 2032, Queensland, Brisbane is going to have our Olympics. So at the moment, we have a lot of capital works, a lot of infrastructures, projects. It is the great time for students to study architecture, civil engineering, construction. And Queensland University of Technology has two campuses, one in the middle of the city, which is where I work. That's the Faculty of Engineering. Is this one in the middle of the city, is Gardens Point, and we have another campus just 10 minutes from the city, Kelvin Grove. QUT is ranked the top 100 universities in the world and 8th in Australia for architecture and built environment. And a little bit more about myself. I'm a researcher and I'm also an educator. I've got a little bit of QS background. I practiced as an assistant quantity surveyor for a short while in Hong Kong before I joined the academia. So I was a graduate of PolyU. I did my MPhil and my PhD here. So I got a lot of sweet memories here. And I joined Queensland University of Technology in 2014. So I've been there for 12 years. I've always been doing construction health and safety research. And I'm now part of the Construction and Architectural Robotics Lab and also Center for Decent Work in Industry. So these two research groups and research centers represent my research relating to people, human-centered, for health and safety, but at the same time, in the construction 4.0, 5.0, how can we actually put human in the center to create a job that is safe and healthy for our construction workers? That's about me. And for my research, I look at physical health and safety and also psychological health and safety. And I always interested in using the latest technology to actually enhance health and safety of our construction workforce. It also relates to my teaching. I teach digital collaboration and BIM, digital engineering, and also AI in my university. And we are looking at how to use humanoid and different sorts of robots to together work with humans to improve productivity and safety. These are some of the projects that I've been doing or completed recently. So the first one is exciting. The ARC is the Australian Research Council, which is equivalent to research councils in Hong Kong. And it is a 5-year, $5 million project. And I'm going to look at how to use robot as a partner to work together with construction workers to perform tasks in a safe way. And you can see my projects focus on health and safety. Sometimes it's physical health and safety, sometimes it's relating to mental health. And because it's so diversified, I collaborate with people from organizational psychology, from law, from data science, from engineering, so forth. Want to share with you that I've just published a book The information of this presentation largely come from the book, and the book is a collection of almost 8 years of research with my colleagues. And so it's very fresh off the press. It's only published, the hard copy, published 3 days ago. So I'm very happy to share with you some of the content in the book in this seminar. This is the outline of the presentation today. I'm going to talk about, give you a contextual background of mental health, of psychosocial hazards, and then to talk about how the psychosocial hazards relate to mental health, and then share with you some strategies and practical implications. Okay, let's get started. You may or may not know, mental health in construction is actually a global problem. There are sobering statistics showing that our construction workforce, they actually suffer mental health issues in different ways. There are evidence showing that in a number of countries, mental health issues is one of the most challenging problem of construction industry. So in Australia, construction workers are 6 times more likely to die from suicide than from safety accidents. So how does this number come from? In Australia, every year, there are about 30 fatal cases in construction industry. So construction workers die in construction site, around 30 of them. And around 200 construction workers kill themselves. So that's about 6 times more as compared to fatal cases in construction. So we try very hard to protect our construction workers from being injured, from being killed in construction site, but they kill themselves. So that really drew my attention. How can we do better? And I'm a construction management researcher. So I tackle this problem from a point of view that how can we manage a construction project in a better way so we don't add additional burden to our construction workers. You can see that the suicide rate of male construction workers almost double than other workers in other industries. And similar statistics in UK. In the UK, back in 2021, about 500 construction workers killed themselves, and the suicide rate in construction industries 4 times higher than other sectors. Similar situation in the America. The suicide rate for construction workers in the America was 46 per 100,000 in 2021, and then as compared with other industries, is 2.4 times higher. So how about in Hong Kong? I just searched the news. A construction worker killed himself last year in a construction site. And this may be an isolated case, but we don't know. So last year, there were over 1,000 people killed themselves, but how many were from construction? As far as I know, there's no separate statistics from the Labor Department telling us how serious is the problem, but no statistics doesn't mean the problem doesn't exist. It's just a hidden problem awaiting to be exposed. If the statistics in Australia, UK, and the America, they are consistent and tell the same story, so it's reasonable to expect that similar situation is actually happening in Hong Kong, but it's just the statistics are not there yet to back up. So maybe we should urge, or someone should urge the Labor Department to collect that kind of statistics so that the problem can be better understood. You may be wondering why construction industry? Yeah, mental health or suicide is actually a social problem. It's a problem. It's a problem that the whole society would need to face. But why construction industry is particularly serious in terms of suicide rate, in terms of mental health issues or challenges that construction workers are facing? It comes back to the construction industry's characteristics. A lot of the work that construction workers they have to do are labor intensive, physically demanding, and it's a very male-dominated culture. In a male-dominated environment, people want to be seen to be strong, just suck it up. It's very hard for construction workers, male construction workers, to open up themselves to say, "Oh, I'm mentally struggling. I'm facing different challenges." So it's very hard for them to show their weakness. So that's a problem. The macho culture and their job are high risk, and that actually add to their mental load. And harassment and bullying are also part of the industry. Well, in Australia at least. So all these add up together. It actually cultivates an environment that is of high level of psychosocial hazards. So anyone working in the industry, they're actually exposing themselves to a very high level of psychosocial hazards. So we try very hard to manage physical hazards. We can see these are the physical hazards in the construction site. We try very hard to manage. But how about psychosocial hazards? They're also hazards, but they are some sort of invisible. And sometimes they're being seen as the norm, the culture, rather than hazards. But indeed, they are hazards. Why should construction companies care about mental health of their employees? Well, mental health of the employees is their personal life. Why companies should care? In the past 4 or 5 years, in Australia and in the UK, workplace mental health is defined as a health and safety issue. It's no longer a human resources problem. So traditionally, mental health or issues or stresses in the workplace are handled by HR, but now it's being defined as a health and safety issue in the workplace. And in 2021, ISO 45003 was released, and it gives clear guideline to how to manage psychosocial hazards at work. And again, it is defined as a health and safety issue by ISO. There is a guideline to how to manage these risks. And if you are using ISO standard for your health and safety system in your company, in your project, you should actually incorporate 45003, which is psychosocial hazards and concern about mental health of people working in that workplace as part of the system. And starting from 2022, so not too long after I started looking at mental health issues in construction industry, Australia legally required all the companies, not just construction, all the companies need to physically and psychologically manage the hazards, create a healthy and safe work environment for the employees. So now it is a legal requirement for companies to look after mental health of employees, manage the psychosocial hazards at work. So that's the start of the change. Back in 2022, the model health and safety regulation in Australia was changed. So that's in the federal level. And then subsequently in 2023, 2024, all the states now are now required by the World Health and Safety Act to manage psychosocial hazards. And that is a business case that companies should really care about mental health and psychosocial hazards at work. So statistics tells us that suicide and suicide-related behaviors in the Australian construction industry cost about 1.57 billion each year. And there are also implications relating to physical health and safety. So psychological health and safety and physical health and safety is actually interrelated. They cannot be separated. So employees or construction workers who are psychologically distressed, you can imagine, they cannot concentrate on their work, or they are actually in danger when they perform high-risk tasks because their mind was not there. So easier to get accident. And the research done by BIS Oxford Economics also reviewed that over 600 million was lost in the Australian construction industry just in 2018, just 1 year, due to presenteeism. Presenteeism means you're there, but you didn't perform your best due to various reasons. So companies should really think about how to actually improve the mental health and well-being of their employees so that they can achieve safety and productivity. So how about Hong Kong? So CIC, the Construction Industry Council, also suggests looking after the well-being of the frontline workers. And there is the campaign, a worker-friendly construction site campaign. I did have a read of that campaign. It's more about the physical health of workers rather than psychological, but this potentially a good start. And OHXC in Hong Kong got the Mental Health Workplace Charter. So that's probably the closest guideline or requirement by OSHC, talking about look at the mental health of employees in the workplace. So this the current recommendation or guideline or suggestions given by OHXC, and I hope more will come and more people would have interest and attention to mental health of workers. So construction industry is particularly challenging when talking about how to manage psychosocial hazards. Again, it goes back to the characteristics of our industry. Most of the companies are SMEs. They are subbies. They have very limited resources. And our industry is extensively subcontracted. So big contractors, they barely do any work in-house themselves, but they subcontract. And this makes managing psychosocial hazards very hard. When in Australia, the legal requirement came out, construction industries actually asking the question, what should we do? How can we manage psychosocial hazards? So for them, they've got the health and safety manager, they've got the foreman, Traditionally, they look after physical health and safety, but now they have the legal requirement to look after or manage psychosocial hazards. So how to do that? It's not easy. And they urgently need some guidelines and need some support from the government. So give you a definition, I've been mentioning psychosocial hazards a lot. You may not be familiar with this term. So this is now a legal term, psychosocial hazards being a term that's used in the regulation. But before that, actually many years ago, people talk about stresses, and there has been research looking at the stresses of construction managers. That kind of research has been done in Hong Kong like 10 years ago, 20 years ago. But now it got a legal name, psychosocial hazards. So it refers to the hazards that arise from or in relation to the design or management of work, the work environment, plant, workplace interactions or behavior. So everything. Your interaction with people, your interaction with the machinery, and the physical environment that you are in, and the design of the job task, the job description, so everything that you will experience, that you encounter at work, that would be part of the psychosocial hazard. And mental health has a spectrum. It can be positive mental health or it can be negative mental health. And to the negative spectrum, it can be anxiety, it can be distress, and further to the positive side, it may be burnout. So there are different mental health outcomes, not just one single outcome. It's a spectrum of situation that construction workers or any employees can be facing. Some examples of psychosocial risks: workplace violence, bullying, poor design of work, poor communication and interpersonal relationship, fatigue, and some job characteristics like unclear job description, or lack of social support, or even career advancement, job insecurity. These can be the source of psychosocial hazards. So these lists put the psychosocial hazards into two columns. These on this side, they are relating to the job demands. And the list on this side, they are related to job resources. So job demand, job resources theory is one of the most commonly used theory to explain psychosocial hazards. And you can see there are a longer list of demand, and then a relatively shorter list of job resources. So when it really becomes a hazard is when there's not enough resources, but there's overwhelmingly high requirement of demands. So if your job has high demand, but lack of or insufficient resources, then you are being exposed to psychosocial hazards. So you can imagine it's how to balance. Either you reduce the level of job demand and increase the level of job resources to make it a balance so that the workers, even though exposed to psychosocial hazards, can be managed, like because those resources can overcome some of the hurdles, some of the negative impact due to the high level of job demand. As comparing psychosocial hazards with physical hazards. Psychosocial hazards, they most likely invisible, and it depends very much on the person's feeling. How do I feel about my work environment, and how am I being treated? Rather than the physical health and safety, yeah, you see this is a hazard. This is physically you can see it. And limited data on psychosocial hazards. So companies may have the people survey, like for HR purpose, but a lot of those data are not directly measuring psychosocial hazards, and it's without the data, it's hard to actually assess what is the level of the psychosocial hazards that workers are being exposed to, and it's hard to quantify as well. So the level of severity and the number of psychosocial hazards, hard to quantify or tease them out, because psychosocial hazards by nature, they are highly interrelated. It's hard to tease out, and psychosocial hazards by themselves alone, they may not be of very high level, but when they are bundled up together, then there's cascading effect, there's flow-on effect to make them really making severe impact to the mental health of workers. And key responsibility, as I mentioned, traditionally psychosocial hazards being managed by HR, but now is legal requirement to be handled by health and safety personnel. So how to do that? How to actually assess and mitigate? So that needs to be guideline, there needs to be training. Even the health and safety inspectors, when they go on site, how can they spot those psychosocial hazards just by visiting a construction site? That's super hard. Now I want to talk about the tools. What can we do about this? We've got all these challenges, and psychosocial hazards, invisible, highly interrelated. Our health and safety practitioners, they are not well trained to do that. So how can we help? There are different tools and guidelines or initiatives by the government or some NGO or in Australia, or that's been helping to support the management of psychosocial hazards. Safe Work Australia is the regulatory body looking after occupational health and safety in Australia, and back in 2019 released the guideline for work-related psychological health and safety, how to manage. So it's quite similar to physical health and safety, starting from prevent the harm, like mitigate or prevent it from happening in the beginning, and then early intervention, and then provide support for recovery. Starting from identifying hazards. So you may notice it's actually the steps are actually quite similar to managing physical health and safety hazards. Identify hazards, and then assess the risk involved. So what's the probability of the hazards occurring, and what's the severity of the outcome? And then come up with some control measures, and then review whether the control measures are effective or not. So People at Work is a survey. It's the first validated survey to measure psychosocial risk. Unfortunately, it's going to be decommissioned this month. So this People at Work survey has been used in all Australia, in different states in Australia by companies, It's a bit similar to the safety climate tool for OHXC in Hong Kong. You can use the survey to collect data with your employees, and then you can upload the data to the platform, and then it will generate a report telling you which area that you are doing well, which area you need attention, and what's the current level of psychosocial hazards within your company or project. So I personally find it very useful. It's better than nothing. But because these people at work survey didn't include harassment, didn't include bullying, and it's been around 10 years now. So I think that it needs to be refreshed and updated. So we are hoping a new tool will come out. So for construction, so that people at work survey is for any industry, not discipline specific. But for construction, there is a group of researchers developing or contextualizing the people at work survey to construction. So they modified the language of the survey questions to suit construction industry, and add some additional psychosocial hazards that would typically happen on site. And this people at work for construction we call PolyU. PolyU has been applied. And the research is actually supported by Mason Construction, and it's now being used in all the sites of Mason Construction. So they got huge data set, and they can benchmark the change of different sites. So these are quite similar, but a lot of focus put on the supervisor. This actually reflects the scenario in construction industry. Supervisor, your immediate boss, would have direct impact on the workers' mental health. So we see this is particularly the scenario for construction industry, supervisors and the co-worker support, and the conflict involved. Probably not so in other industries, but this is for construction. So another tool is not actually assessing psychosocial hazards, but it assesses the environment in the workplace. Psychosocial safety climate is similar to safety climate. It can be a proxy, like a thermometer, to measure what is the environment or perception in the workplace. So I'm from Queensland, so I'm particularly interested in what are the guidelines that's available for Queensland. In Queensland, we also have a guideline how to manage psychosocial hazards, psychological health. You can see the psychosocial hazards and factors. These are typical ones. They keep occurring relating to job demand and job resources. And then these hazards, they may not create a negative impact, but if they are not balanced, like high level of demand but low level of resources, then they become a risk, and then would become the stress, extra stress on workers. And then if long exposure to this psychosocial risk, then it will turn into different outcome, both mentally and physically. I also want to share what's the current mental health supporting organizations in Australia. Mason Construction has been very successful. It was originated from a redundancy fund in construction industry. and it was initiated by a plumber. So it was initiated bottom up. It's not top down. It's bottom up among the workers. So the idea being MACE, support MACE, so peer support, because it's, as I mentioned, it's very hard to make the construction workers open up themselves to talk about their challenges, and hard for them to take time off to see a psychiatrist, psychologist, or even GP. So to get a mental health plan, you can go to a GP to say, I'm not mentally fit to work. Then the GP can create a mental health plan for you and give you day off. Sick leave is sick leave. But it's hard for construction workers to actually take the initiative to do that. So MACE in construction, the idea is co-worker support, peer support, and this is your mate, this is your friend. So look after them and ask, are you okay? Check on them. So that was the original idea. And MACE in construction has been very successful. It actually I'm very proud it initiated in Queensland. And then it now established in all the states except Melbourne, except Victoria. But they will soon be in Victoria as well. The reason being Victoria has another organization called Incolink. So MACE in construction didn't go there early. And they've been very successful. The whole concept now replicated in mining. So there's MACE in mining and also MACE in energy. In Australia, we've got the renewable energy sector that's emerging. So and they're usually in remote area like fly-in, fly-out workers, mining, and renewable energy projects. They're also very remote area, like drive-in, drive-out, tidal workers. So MACE in construction become energy and mining. And UK has MACE in mine, MIND, MACE in mine. Also borrow the concept from MACE in construction. And this year, MACE in construction also started in the America. And it all originates from Queensland. Other than that, Beyond Blue is a suicide prevention supporting organization. And then mental health first aid is like first aid. And many construction projects, many construction sites would have someone qualified for mental health first aid. Kind of is a requirement now. Most of the big construction sites, they will have someone that's accredited, that's been trained for mental health first aid. So Black Dog Institute is similar to Beyond Blue, provides suicide prevention, and they both do research. Actually, MACE in construction, Beyond Blue, and Black Dog Institute, they do research, and they have their intervention program backed up by research. A bit more about MACE in construction. So they've got different kinds of training service. The general awareness, the GET training is for anyone. So they just go to the construction site and gather everybody to give like 1 hour mental health awareness training. And then for people who are more interested, they can have additional training like half day connector. To be a connector, you proactively keep an eye on your peers who is struggling and just talk to them, and also assist training. Usually this is for the supervisors. They have the duty to manage psychosocial hazards. They've got a team to manage. So it would be good for them to have the assist training to be more aware the needs of the team. And they also provide a site accreditation. If a particular construction site and project, they follow all the training requirement of MACE in construction, then they can be a site that's accredited. That's something good to put on, for their site, that their site is certified by Amazing Construction. So these are the additional service they provide. Case management, if someone try to suicide, then they will have a case manager to follow up with that person if that person didn't die. And they will pay services and critical incident support, and they got 24 hours hotline as well. And they also do postvention. Like, it's not just the one person who tried to kill himself or herself that person lost life, but the impact would also be for people around them, for the family and for the co-workers in the same site. So Amazing Construction also do postvention to look after other co-workers. I was involved in, when I was in sabbatical, I was involved in their research together with Griffith University. I was involved in their roundtable in 2023 and produced the blueprint report, looking at their current program, ensure that their program is backed up by research, and the research is finding is feeding back into their intervention program. And this is about the PolyU survey. They've got thousands, 10,000 million, thousands of data to compare and analyze to provide a benchmark. And this is the latest blueprint. So the last one was developed in 2018 and is now updated in 2023. But the 5 pillars remained. The 5 pillars were actually very effective in supporting the psychosocial hazard management on site. And all the intervention programs or service provided by Amazing Construction are governed by these 5 pillars. So Queensland government also produced a psychosocial risk assessment tool. It's very qualitative. It's not like a survey that you can actually put a rating and then get a score. It's more like a guideline or qualitative interview questions. And some more guidelines in different states. And this is particularly for 5-in, 5-out workers. Like they're in the middle of nowhere. They do 7 days or 14 days in a row, and then go back home for another 7 days. So they're particularly high risk in terms of their mental health. Okay, I want to play a video. Lendlease is one of the biggest developer and contractor in Australia, and they put lots of emphasis on mental health of their employees.
For quite a long time, they've been focused on health and safety, but we have seen such a significant increase both in the reporting of mental health issues, suicides, construction workers is more likely to have mental health illness. It really is something that we can't say no to in the industry, and working together is the way forward. That unless we use a number of different initiatives and pathways around mental health support. So we do have an employee assistance program. We have connections with mates in construction who are fantastic, and then for our employees, we have a range of other initiatives. For small businesses in our sector, there's a lot of labour hire and smaller subcontractors, and so an opportunity for them is to actually be aware of the whole range of programs that the New South Wales government has put out. For me, a mentally healthy workplace can be as simple as people walk in and feel that they're valued and welcome, and that we will create workplaces where we provide opportunities for people to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So Lenny's has a list of mental health initiatives for their new employees. They will have the mental health induction, and they can choose to do mental health first aid training. And they also have variety of initiatives. So Uprise program is for the white collar. And also they have the mindfulness training, sleep program. So it's more individual level. And then EAP, you can get the counseling, talk to a psychologist if needed. And this is the amazing construction assist training. And they got the mental health well-being days, so three days a year that you don't need to give reason. You just take it as a well-being day to take care of yourself. Like additional holiday, no need to give certificate or medical certificate. And then it's got very good environmental health and safety global minimum requirements, which is a dashboard. So this is a dashboard, and they collect all the information worldwide. They've got projects all over the world to collect all the like accidents or injuries, and they now added mental health and fatigue as a section in the dashboard. So they collect data from workers relating to mental health and fatigue. So this is one of the health and safety reporting requirement within Lenny's, and so as their subbies. So subbies working for projects of Lenny's, they also have to report. So I hope that showcase what a construction company can actually do to protect mental health of their employees and manage psychosocial hazards. So next, I want to talk about my research and how psychosocial hazards actually impact mental health, or to what extent they impact mental health. So this is the project supported by Australian Research Council, and I've got a team to work together. I work together with two organizational psychologists. Larina Jamieson, she's the one developing the People at Work survey. She's one of the pioneers to actually look at psychosocial hazards before anyone started looking at it. So that's my research framework. I did a literature review, interview, and survey, and come up with 4 objectives. And the theoretical background that I rely on was the job demand and resources theory that I just talked about. Okay, so the first research question that I look at was what is the overall relationship between psychosocial hazards and mental health in construction industry? As I mentioned, before we call psychosocial hazards being psychosocial hazards, they're being called stresses or some other names. But they are similar in nature. So we can potentially look at what has been published, what research has been done all over the world to actually look at what is the level of impact of psychosocial hazards on mental health. So that's my first objective, to just look at what has been published, what other people has done, to look at the level of impact from psychosocial hazards on mental health. So I look at 48 studies that's published after 2010. 48 studies, and 75% of them published after 2010. And these 48 studies came from Asia, North America, Africa, so all the continents. And altogether, the sample size was 13K. And the male participant was the majority. From that 48 studies, 13 focused on trade workers, and then 19 on professionals, and then the remaining, some other unique groups like expat or ethnic minorities. And these studies included 14 psychosocial hazards. And the mental health outcomes, some of them are context-free psychosocial outcome, like anxiety, depression, they're not job-related, or some are job-related, like job burnout being the outcome. And they are being measured by different scale. That's the established scale to measure mental health. GHQ is the General Health Questionnaire. K10 is or K6 is to measure distress. And DAS is for anxiety and strain. So this is what I find. From that 48 studies, overall, their impact on mental health as a whole account for 0.28. So like 28%. It's moderately strong. So the correlation of psychosocial hazards as a whole, like these 14, on mental health is moderately influencing. And then something surprising, because when you talk about the stress or the psychosocial hazards in the construction industry, the first thing that would come into mind is role overload. I've got too many things to do. I can't finish my work. I've got too short time frame to do my work. So it's role overload. But very interesting, these published studies showing that the top important, most influential psychosocial hazards is actually role conflict, and then role ambiguity, rather than role overload. So role overload only ranked number 5. It's still important, but it's actually contradicting to what usually we would think. The strongest not being role overload. What really impacting construction workforce mental health would be role conflict and role ambiguity. So we try to interpret why this is the case. Maybe people coming into the construction industry, they actually expect they would experience role overload. So that's the norm. They actually accept this is part of the job. But other than that, when they experience role ambiguity and role conflict, which they didn't expect, when they experience that, they really feel the impact. And that actually add a toll to that. So I published the outcome in a journal article, and I think the takeaway here is, role overload kind of is being accepted as the norm. So you cannot tackle role overload to improve the mental health of the workers. But rather you should avoid or try to avoid role conflict and role ambiguity, which is found to be very influential to workers' mental health. So the second research question I developed was in Australia. When I did the study, there wasn't any empirical study to look at how construction workers understand psychosocial hazards, or how do they feel about mental health being a problem. So I would like to look at what the psychosocial hazards in construction in Australia looks like, to better understand the problem, unpack the problem. So I did 33 interviews with people working in the industry in Australia. And some of them work for tier 1 contractor, and some of them work like self-employed builder, some work for developer client, and some are subbies. Most of them were men, and they're all site-based. So my target were people working on site, not those professionals. So some of them in the management role, and some are tradies. So I found a lot of things. I want to share some of them here. What does mental health mean for these site-based construction practitioners? You can see there are very interesting varieties. Some say it's comfortable, safe, or minds, thinking. It's about the mood, attitude, or it's all about those negative mental health outcomes. So a variety. But what we find is if the interviewee, they didn't have any mental health training, like they didn't have any mental health awareness education or training, then they struggle. They struggle to articulate what mental health means to them. So that help us to like what's the implication of that? Mental health literacy is needed. So it's not lateral that anyone can talk about mental health. It is a very dark topic, and it is not something that construction workers can easily articulate or talk about it. Even they're willing to, the words are not in their mouth. So that points to reveal to us that everyone needs mental health literacy, be trained, be educated, raise the awareness. So from the interview, I try to map those psychosocial hazards that's being mentioned by the interviewees according to the job demand and job resources theory. And there are some new ones that emerged that's particularly unique to the construction industry, like safety concerns, exposure to traumatic events, job insecurity, task interdependency, clients' demand, contract pressure. So from the name, they're not something new, but when the interviewees talk about that, they actually interpret it in a slightly different way from what we usually think about physical health and safety issues. So that we find interesting. And from the interview, we also find that these psychosocial hazards, when they came from the mouth of the interviewees, they all mixed it together. It's not one by one. That means these psychosocial hazards, they are so interconnected that even people working in the industry, they try to talk about them, all the hazards that they're facing, they all mixed up. So this is the most frequently mentioned psychosocial hazards. That's also something we find interesting. Role overload being most frequently mentioned psychosocial hazards. Everyone talk about role overload. I've got too many things to do, tight schedules, excessive workload. Most frequently mentioned, but remember what we find from the meta-analysis, role overload, even though most frequently mentioned, but not being the most influential. And we also asked our interviewees to relay their experience of psychosocial hazards to their mental health. So they talk about, role overload would lead to depression, make them stressed, frustrated, different description. What we find here, the psychosocial hazards from the job demand side has a stronger effect on negative mental health outcome than those relating to job resources. What's the implication? You cannot keep increasing job resources to balance the job demand, because job demand by nature has a stronger negative impact on mental health. You cannot keep increasing the resources, but not reducing the demand to improve mental health. We try to map the psychosocial hazards from the interviews into a concept map, and this is not what we anticipated, but it came out, it emerged by itself like that. So some of the psychosocial hazards, they could be two-way direction, and they are interrelated. So that prompts us to think about what would be needed for next step. Here is an example, like role overload. When someone has too many things to do, really overload, then it's easy for that person to get agitated and have interpersonal conflict with the co-workers. And when facing role overload, it's naturally also cognitively high demand. And when you have too many things to handle, you just don't want to help others. So lack of co-worker support is highly related to the role overload. So with that, with this highly interrelated psychosocial hazards, we think about, well, most of the existing studies, they use very linear statistical analysis to analyze psychosocial hazards or stresses. But these psychosocial hazards, they're so interrelated. So those linear or traditional statistical analysis actually would not be the best choice, or even making incorrect conclusions. So for the interviews, we identified 18 psychosocial hazards, 6 of them very unique to the construction industry. And we find out these psychosocial hazards are interrelated, even though we thought they would be interrelated, but this is the first empirical evidence that really support this. And for the next step, the final step for my project, I look at how psychosocial hazards, which are interconnected as a whole, as a bundle, how do they impact on mental health of construction workers. So I did a survey with site-based construction workers from different states in Australia. And they range from tradies to contract administrators, site engineers, foremen, project manager. And I did a Bayesian network analysis. The reason for choosing Bayesian network analysis being it can consider the interrelationship among psychosocial hazards and consider the interdependencies of these variables and how they, as a whole, with these interdependencies, impact on the outcome, which is mental health. So that's the baseline model I developed. So the model prediction accuracy was over 88%. And from that model, we identified like 66% of the survey respondents, they suffer from poor mental health, and there are some wood knocks here. No, sorry. So poor physical environment, contract pressure, and lack of co-worker support. They were the wood note. So they have an influential role determining the probability of the other psychosocial hazards. So if we can control these wood notes, then the probability of other psychosocial hazards would be under control as well. So I also did a sensitivity analysis and identified the lack of job control, lack of co-worker support, role ambiguity, role conflict, and lack of supervisor support. They are the most influential hazards to mental health. Okay, the beauty of big scenario analysis is we can do what if scenario analysis. We can anticipate what will happen if we can control some of the psychosocial hazards. So so this is scenario. This is the most simple scenario. Assuming we can control the psychosocial hazards to like 100% low level, which means zero psychosocial hazards. Then what will happen? If we can control 0% of low job control, then the mental health condition will improve by 8%. And the good mental health will increase by 8%. Like the poor mental health, severe level of poor mental health would reduce by 3%. So this is controlling these psychosocial hazards one by one to zero level, to 100% low level. So which is not very significant, like it's single digit. The change is not that substantial. And then I look at the joint scenario. What if I can control multiple psychosocial hazards together? How would that improve mental health? So that is more promising. So if we jointly, as a portfolio, control some of these psychosocial hazards, if we can control 4, like the lack of job control, lack of co-worker support, role conflict, and job insecurity, if we can control these 4, just control these 4, we can achieve the highest probability, like 77% of good mental health. If we control 1 more, poor physical environment, then we can achieve the highest probability, 83% of good mental health. So this is very useful finding, like as a construction company, limited time, limited resources, and there are so many psychosocial hazards, like that at least 14 or more psychosocial hazards being mentioned. So what a construction company can do to manage psychosocial hazards, they can concentrate their time and resources on only these 4 or 5 psychosocial hazards that will give them the best outcome. By controlling these 4 or 5, you can achieve the probability of having 83% of good mental health of your employees, which is good enough. So this is a very powerful tool and can be used by company to focus on the most effective scenario. So based on the 4 or 5 hazard scenario, companies can come up with their own strategies, how to improve the job control, how to improve the work environment, and that would give them the best mental health outcome. So this is a breakthrough in terms of research, because it's the first time Bayesian analysis being applied in mental health and psychosocial hazard study, and it overcome the challenge of considering the interdependencies of the psychosocial hazards and give a more accurate outcome that can derive recommendation. Okay, this is the final part. So we've seen a lot of psychosocial hazards. So what's the strategies? What's the action items that companies can do? I will talk about the industry level, organizational level, and individual level. So industry level, I include the unions. So in Australia, unions super strong, and professional organizations, peak bodies, policy makers. In Australia, there is an organization called ACA, the Australian Construction Association. They have been very active, trying to change the culture of the construction industry, and they have a cultural task force, and got companies to try 5-day work. And the outcome being 5-day work didn't reduce productivity. Instead, it increased productivity. So to improve mental health or manage psychosocial hazards is a system problem. It is not something that can be tackled at just one angle. And it's more than just looking at particular psychosocial hazards, but it requires really a cultural shift, and diversity inclusion, like more women to join construction industry, that would change the metro culture, that would actually reduce the bullying problem, or if there are more women to join construction industry, like the boys would behave better. Actually, if women in the room, they behave better. And companies, like different campaigns and advocacy, like Mason Construction, and the Queensland government actually provide money to support the running of Mason Construction. Of course, they do their own fundraising as well. Industry can think about the fundamental problem. Remember those wood notes? It's about the contract pressure. It's about the work environment, like the procurement, the construction methods that would matter. They also study looking at whether prefabrication would actually improve the mental health of the construction workers. The preliminary outcome being, if it is a prefab, it is modular construction, the workers on site, they are less stressful, but actually the supervisors, they're more stressful because the timeline cannot be moved. But this is something to further unpack and explore. So at organizational level, when psychosocial hazards already exist, then it's very reactive. You try to mitigate, you try to do something to lower the negative impact, but we should look at it from the very beginning. Can we try to create good work design, to create a job that is healthy and safe for the construction workforce to work in? So that is a model that's recently developed and widely recognized, called SMART model, stimulating, mastery, autonomy, relational, and tolerable demands. So actually the S, M, A, and R is tackling the problem of lack of job resources. And the last one, the T, tolerable demand, is tackling the problem of too high level of job demand. So if we can create a job that considers the smart factors, then we can, if not eliminating, highly reduce the level of psychosocial hazards in the workplace. This is my research, my recent research. We try to use AI to develop a chatbot called PsyGuard. It's a collaboration between UNSW, Wollongong, and QUT. So it's a chatbot. You can use it to, like companies can use it to raise the awareness of employees relating to mental health literacy, and they can find resources there. So they're all over the place. Those supporting resources are all over the place. But this chatbot can help search for all the information and easily provide to supervisors and employees. Well, individual level, I'm not a fan of it because I think dealing with psychosocial hazards, it should be at industry or organizational level rather than putting the burden on the individual. But I think what personally can do would be raise the awareness, get yourself some training, make yourself familiar with the problems, and then you can support your peer. And self-care. Yeah. And some coping strategies, there's negative coping or positive coping. So in Australia, the most common coping strategy would be to get a beer. But this is not great, not a good strategy. But going to gym. So some of the coping strategy that we frequently hear about is going to gym. So lots of construction workers, they like going to gym, which is good, a healthy coping strategy. There are also some like emotional focused coping. For a short time, you can do it, but it's not for long here. So this is the summary. As I say, to manage psychosocial hazards, it's not just from one angle. It has to be systematic change from the industry, organizational level, and personal. Key takeaway, psychosocial hazards, a real health and safety issue, and they're interrelated. They need to be recognized as physical hazards. They can't be ignored. Yeah, they deserve to be managed. We need fundamental change to the industry. Call for action. So health and safety landscape need a paradigm shift. I attend the Workplace Health and Safety Show. It's a show for occupational health and safety in different states. So it's a world show. Different states will have their own show. And there are lots of companies coming for exhibition. And more than half of them are actually relating to mental health. And this panel discussion is also on how to help construction workers to tackle mental health challenges. And this lady from Landy's, this is prevention supporting organization, and he's the CEO from Mason Construction, national CEO. I think this shows that for changing the mental health problem in the construction industry requires different perspective and a concerted effort from different stakeholders. So I hope this will be an agenda for occupational health and safety in Hong Kong, and we can protect our workers together. Some thoughts for you. You've been sitting here for so long. Yeah, you can think about when on your way home, yeah, what's the most important psychosocial hazards that in the project you're currently managing or you in your workplace, and how can you assess and manage, and what control measures that you can think of? Yeah. Yeah, this is the food for thought for you on your way home. And I'm going to have a book launch and webinar. Welcome you to join. It's hybrid. You can join online, free. And anyone join this can have a book discount 30%. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Yeah, welcome any question.
Questions?
Sorry,
Go ahead.
it took longer than I expected.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Carol Hon. So your sharing is very good and very useful to all of us. I have just some of my personal concern about the idea of doing this research, because actually, if you talk about stress for construction worker, other than those are job related, probably they may have some other issues like
Yes.
family issues, financial issues, marriage issues. Those kind of stress might affect the worker. That's why, as you mentioned in the beginning, they might be very high, even 6 times of suicide rate compared with the job accident, the death rate in Australia. Is there any possibility to try to quantify the contribution of work-related stress that will affect the workers that cause suicide?
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
absolutely right. And I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist. So when I approach this problem, I come from an angle of construction management. How can we manage the construction projects in a better way? We don't add additional mental health burden to the construction workers. They have their life struggle, and we can't do much. But when they come to work, we want to manage the workplace hazards so they don't expose to additional burden, which they already very high, maybe they already struggling, but we don't want to add additional burden. And this is the legal requirement for company. You don't need to do anything outside work for their life, but when they come to work in that work environment, you need to make sure the level of psychosocial hazards is being managed. And the employees, they are valuable assets of the company. And if you can do something like at work, peer support that can help them to face their life struggle, then that would be also fantastic. Not sure whether I answered the question. Yeah.
Between the work-related and
Yeah. So looking at the meta-analysis, look at 14 psychosocial hazards and the mental health outcome. The psychosocial hazards are job-related. The mental health outcome are mixed. So the correlation is about 0.28. It's just moderately strong. Yeah.
because it's the still white for population.
Yeah. And then you can imagine like 0.7 is their life. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? I do have one follow-up similar to that. You mentioned earlier that the current statistics is not going to support your analysis. So is there any better way to collect the statistics? Because when we look at physical hazards, it's quite easy to count how many holes, how many work from height situations. We can define, quantify it, work from height is 2 meters above, whatever. But in terms of psychological hazards, as you point out, overload of work is quite vague. Whatever overload to him might be underload for me.
Yeah.
So most of the time when we bring up to a employer, they look at it and say, this is too qualitative and too personal dependent. So how we address that issue? Should we revolutionize the way we collect statistics, and how should we do that?
I think the people at work survey was trying to quantify it. even though it's still self-report survey. The people at work, like Paul Con for construction, it's a rating of 1 to 7, and there are about 40 questions that you can self-report, self-assess. This is the psychosocial hazards that I'm currently exposed to, and self-report my mental health status. I think that at the moment, this is the measurement, but I know there are research looking at eye tracking and even looking at your physiological indicators like your heart rate, those things. But
Spread ratio
still-
and all those stuff. Because
Yeah.
when we look at surveys, is as we know, all surveys, depending on what you did last night, that affect the whole survey. It's not really covered the whole time. So follow-up on Alex's question is similar, because in our study, looking at workplace fatigue, it's mostly not work-related. About 75% is actually in family. The night before, have quarrel with your lover, your partner, your kids, and that brings the fatigue into the workplace. So that would be difficult to quantify, especially in construction sites. When we show a construction worker himself, Hong Kong, I think everywhere in the world have bullying, but how do you quantify them? And even though we know it, how do we know that person is not bullying at home? Well, female or male is the same. So I think that question is quite valid to see how that can impact the analysis, and not only from the 15, 16 factors and how you correlate the inside work, outside work. So in US, the combined study is most of the time they follow home and how you do work at home and how you interact with your family. So that might be the next version built into your Bayesian analysis, because your Bayesian analysis is kind of closed. You start over whatever you have and then backfeed the probability on top, rather than trying to find something new.
Yeah. So I guess there are two things, like psychosocial hazards can be independently assessed, whether it's high level or low level. But then your mental health status is influenced not just by work, it's your whole life. Yeah, your whole life. And yeah, so it's separately assessed. And then somehow we see there is certain level of correlation, but not too high, like not too high. It's actually not too high. Yeah. But I think like for mason construction, why this kind of service was initiated, because they recognize construction workers, no matter they have problem at work or at home, they need support.
Right.
And this is the way to support them. Yeah.
Correct. Like when I went in Australia before, we have this "Are You Okay" program. That everybody look at each other and look at their face. Are you okay today? And that's kind of like peer support. Any other questions? If not, then thank you very much. And that really brings us a whole big step forward of getting closer.